Let's bring in a very smart woman. Dr. Jeanne Zaino teaches political science at Iona College. And the Electoral College, have you done that this year with your students yet?
We have not done it yet, but we will. We do it every year.
And what do you say? What is your presentation?
Why the framers chose it, where it is in the Constitution. And you know me, Bill, I always talk about all sides. So we also talk about the debate surrounding the Electoral College. Why, for instance, there has been for many, many years, long before the election of Donald Trump, this national popular vote compact to change the Electoral College, and why people, like you just mentioned, opposed changing the Electoral College. So we like to do both. And I would just go back to Elizabeth Warren's statement last night. One thing I always tell students when we talk about amending the Constitution is if you ever hear a candidate today talk about that as a solution to a problem, then they are just blowing smoke, because there is no way the Constitution gets amended to change the Electoral College. We heard Hillary Clinton, if you recall, in 2016, talk about amending the Constitution to overturn Citizens United. If you really think something is a problem, you don't talk about amending the Constitution to change it. You talk about other ways of addressing it, because it's not going to happen.
But this is a little bit different, because states like Colorado, California, New York have already voted in their state legislatures for the popular vote. It doesn't mean anything. In order for that to kick in, you would have to get to a threshold of states voting to banish the Electoral College at the level of 270 electoral votes. Then it would start to be considered. But still, because of the wording in the U.S. Constitution, it would take another constitutional convention, and 2/3 of the states would have to vote for it, which is never going to happen, because the South and the Midwest and the upper Midwest knows it would be disenfranchised if it happens. So you're never going to get 2/3 of the state to say we don't want the Electoral College. These votes are symbolic. But the Socialist Democrats, they want the urban centers to rule the United States, because the urban centers are generally liberal. Am I wrong?
Well, the flip side of this is that it is very, very difficult when you do the math to imagine that you could do a flyover from New York to Chicago to LA and, a few of the big cities and win the presidency of the United States. There's simply not enough votes there to win. So
while let's put up the map. Let's put up the map.
Yeah,
on full screen. We're going to put the map up. This was the map for Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. And you can see that Hillary Clinton carried very few states. And the big states like Florida and Texas, which don't rival California yet, but they're coming up there. New York's losing population. Right now, the map is pretty balanced. So any party could win the presidency, as we saw with Barack Obama. It's not stacked. The deck isn't stacked. You got to compete. And Donald Trump, he's got to win states that traditionally Republicans have a hard time in. He's got to win Ohio. It's a must-win. So to me, that's where it should be. It should be a competitive situation. Last word.
Well, I think the other thing to consider here is how the states allocate their electoral votes. And I think that's the real question. Except for 2 states, Maine and Nebraska, they all do a winner-take-all system. And that's why you see Texas and Florida and other states going Republican in 2016. If they did a proportional system more along the lines of Maine and Nebraska, the outcomes of some of these elections may be different.
Maybe, but it's the same theory. I mean, they just divide the states up to basically 2 regions. But it's the same theory, because the electoral votes go to in the combination of whoever gets the most votes gets the electoral votes. So it's basically they're cutting the state in half.
Yeah, but a consideration of proportionality is something that I think should be considered. What I don't think is viable is a constitutional amendment at this time. It simply won't work. So if you want to change the system, that's simply not the way to do it.
All right. Doctor, thanks as always. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Go Iona and March Madness. I know
That's right.
North Carolina, which is not easy, that's for sure. Thank